What actually happens when an economy collapses? Most people imagine it instantly: empty shelves, riots in the streets, banks shutting their doors overnight. That is the image every movie and every headline has given us. History tells a completely different story. Germany, 1923. In January, a loaf of bread cost around 250 marks. By November, the same loaf cost over 200 billion marks. People were paid twice a day because by the afternoon their morning wages were worth half as much. Families who had spent their entire lives saving money watched those savings become worthless in a matter of months. But not everyone lost. In the chaos, some found a way to thrive, turning paper into power. The people who owed money in marks watched their debts disappear overnight, paid off with currency that was now worthless. The people who owned hard assets, land, factories, foreign currency, gold, watched the value of everything they owned multiply, measured in the collapsing currency. The collapse did not destroy wealth, it transferred it, from the people holding cash and savings to the people holding assets and debt. 1923, 2001, same pattern. 78 years later, on the other side of the world, the exact same mechanism happened again. Argentina, December 2001. For a decade, the Argentine peso had been pegged 1-to-1 with the US dollar. People trusted it. They kept their savings in pesos in Argentine banks. Then the government froze every bank account in the country. People could not withdraw their own money. When accounts were unfrozen months later, the peso had been devalued. $1 that used to equal 1 peso now equaled almost 4. Every Argentine who had their life savings in pesos lost roughly 3/4 of its value, overnight by government decree. But the people who had moved their money to dollar accounts offshore before the freeze lost nothing. In fact, when they brought that money back into Argentina after the devaluation, it was worth nearly 4 times what it had been before. 1923, 2001, 78 years apart. 2 different continents, 2 different currencies. The exact same pattern. The collapse is not random. It is not chaos. It follows a sequence. And once you see the sequence, you start to notice it everywhere. 2008, the United States housing market collapsed. Millions of families lost their homes to foreclosure. Banks had lent money to people who could not repay it, packaged those loans into securities, and sold them around the world. When the loans failed, the entire system seized. The government stepped in, making the decision to rescue the financial sector. Roughly $700 billion went to stabilize the banks that caused the crisis. The banks were saved, rescued by a massive and unprecedented injection of public capital to stabilize the system. The families were not, left to face the harsh consequences of the collapse entirely on their own. Across the crisis, an estimated 9 to 10 million families lost their homes. And that is when something happened that had never happened before at this scale. Large investment firms began buying 200,000 homes, one buyer. The scale was unprecedented. Investment firms with access to billions of dollars in cash began buying foreclosed single-family homes. Not 1 or 2. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. One firm alone acquired nearly 50,000 single-family homes within just a few years. Homes that families had lost were bought in bulk, at deep discounts by entities with access to capital that ordinary families could never compete with. Those homes did not go back on the market. They were converted into rental properties. The families who lost their homes in the crash in many cases became tenants, paying rent on homes in the same neighborhoods they had owned, paying rent to companies that had bought at the bottom. This is the mechanism. It is not a conspiracy. There was no secret meeting. There did not need to be one. The system simply rewards whoever has cash reserves at the exact moment everyone else is forced to sell. Banking, real estate. The pattern is always the same. When the collapse happens, assets get cheap. The people who are forced to sell are the ones who needed the money to survive. The people who buy are the ones who had liquidity sitting in reserve, waiting. The collapse is not the disaster for everyone. For some, the collapse is the opportunity they have been waiting for. Weimar Germany, 1923. Argentina, December 2001. The 2008 financial crisis. 3 different collapses. Decades apart. Different countries, different currencies, different governments. Every single time, the same pattern. The people holding cash and wages lose. The people holding assets and access to capital gain. So why does this matter today? Because right now, several of the same conditions that preceded each of those collapses are active at the same time. Government debt levels, relative to the size of the economy, are higher than at almost any point in modern history. Inflation has remained above target for years, eroding the value of wages even as asset prices for those who own homes, stocks, and businesses continue to climb. Interest rates are being used as the primary tool to fight inflation, the same tool used before previous crises, and every time rates rise, it becomes more expensive for ordinary people to borrow, while it becomes more profitable for banks to lend. Corporate cash reserves among the largest companies and investment firms are at record highs. The same kind of reserves that allowed firms to buy tens of thousands of homes after 2008. And confidence in currencies and institutions, the same confidence that collapsed in Germany in 1923 and in Argentina in 2001, is being tested again as central banks around the world explore replacing the systems we currently use with something entirely new. None of this means a collapse is guaranteed. History does not repeat on a schedule, but it does rhyme. And right now, it is rhyming loudly. Here's what we want you to take from this. This is not a video telling you to panic. This is a video telling you the rules. Every collapse in history has transferred wealth from people holding cash and wages to people holding assets and capital. That is not an opinion. That is the documented record across 100 years, across multiple continents. Knowing that rule does not give you the power to stop a collapse, but it gives you the power to understand what is actually happening when one occurs. To recognize the pattern instead of being surprised by it. To make decisions about your own money with the same information that institutions have always had. The people who win during a collapse are not smarter than you. They simply know the rule. Now you do too. This is sovereign. Every week we pull back the curtain on the systems of power and money that shape the world you live in. If this surprised you, subscribe. New documentary every Thursday.